Hello everybody, welcome to Nature's People. Well today let's just hop into this water. Guys, you don't imagine how much I hate water. But getting into the topic, I wanted to tell you guys about the brain. Sorry for the last part of the video that I abruptly cut the video short because there was some inconvenience, so I wasn't really able to bring good content and finishing up with what I was trying to say or to finish. And today we're going to finish up with the main aspect of how the brain works and its complexity. So basically this part of the video is going to be named the complexity of the brain part 3. All right, so lately the last statements I gave last time was that it was about fMRI and the MRI, and where MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging, which means we are able to map each and every cell of the body, and including the brain, because the brain is composed of cells. And this mapping involves detailed capturing and zooming of the activity and also the structure of many organisms, regardless of their looks or their functioning, their size. This technology is really advanced. It's really a good plus in modern medical techniques of trying to know about systems and organisms and organs in a non-invasive way. So now I further stated that there's this thing called functional magnetic resonance imaging. So the functional one, it's really interesting, guys, because what it does, it captures the effects of the cell on a functional basis, meaning that whatever is going on inside the cell, this technology is able to capture the activity of a certain cell, system, or organism. So when they go to the brain, say for instance, they're trying to know why a person is having depression and doesn't seem to any drug doesn't seem to be working properly. So what they generally do is they try to use this sort of technologies to try to have an insight of what's actually going on inside the brain without actually taking a biopsy or any of those invasive methods that were used in the old ages, in the medieval times. Well, now being more specific and more detailed and more direct, I'd rather say that the brain, I know you guys don't find me to be a person that is very direct and very concrete and very that summarize things, but just understand, like, these videos are just coming like this because over time I'm going to ameliorate them. I'm going to sort of make them more better. I'm going to zoom it out so that you guys don't have like a boring view. I will have a good size. So continuing, I was saying that the brain is subdivided into various parts. We have a part called the cerebrum, where the most amount of cells are. The brain has about the cerebrum, which is like when you see the pictures of the brain, the largest side is called cerebrum. You have the cerebrum, you have the cerebellum, and the brainstem. So brainstem is more, it controls more of the autonomic systems of the brain, And then the cerebrum is more of the sensory part, like to control your senses, your skin temperature, heart rate, heartbeat, pressure, all these things. So what often happens is that the cerebrum, where most cell categorized type of cells are, has around 16 billion neurons, and these neurons are primarily responsible of assessing assessing external information and sort of adjusting and having a responsive activity to bring the body into homeostasis. For those of you guys who do not know what homeostasis is basically the ability of systems to bring things into a stable equilibrium. Say for instance, if outside it's 4 degrees Celsius and your body has to maintain a constant temperature of 36, 37 degrees. I think the main body temperature is 36 point something, 36.7. So the brain is really responsible of generating heat and making sure the internal temperature of the various organs that are out there remains at equilibrium. Now, being more specific and trying to detail why the complexity of the brain is so much, I'm bringing all these aspects, breaking down how the brain functions. So we have the cerebrum, getting back to the role and basic aspect of what I'm trying to say. I have to break down the brain for you so that we, as I mentioned previously, we have a summary and a complete, detailed and summarized concept of the brain in general. So I have the cerebrum, which is the last part of the brain that controls various functions, temperature, sensory aspects, vision, and then in the cerebrum is subdivided in many parts. You have the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for decision making, consciousness, understanding, planning. You have the temporal lobe, which is, as the name suggests, it refers to, adjusting yourself in space, various functions. It has a broad way of functions. You have the parietal lobe, and so it goes. You have the occipital lobe, which is responsible for vision and all those things. And also you have the cerebellum. The cerebellum is really interesting. It's generally responsible for equilibrium, spatial memories, and awareness. However, recent studies have shown that the cerebellum is responsible also for emotions. Now that I've broken down all this part of the brain, you guys can have an insight. So why do we have so many neurons? On average, we have 86 to 100 billion neurons, and they're always in synchrony. I've mentioned previously that generally the brain, each neuron has a synapse. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you get back to my previous video and then you understand what a synapse is. Guys, I'm definitely going to make better videos where there are images, where there are details of how these things work. Like you have a picture of a neuron, not these boring videos where I'm out here in the park watching waters and by the riverside and look at the square out here. So I don't want to shoot now. I don't want to film nobody, so I will just go this way, and then when the people just cross paths, I will continue shooting. So what I was saying is, so what generally happens is that a synapse, what I was saying, is a neuron. So a neuron is like my hand, and a synapse is this part, and this part is connected to another part that looks like this. However, they don't touch. They just transfer information through a medium of molecules that are sometimes they're neurotransmitters, but sometimes there are certain type of molecules. You have GABA, you have glutamate, you have acetylcholine, you have serotonin, and for the next video I'm going to talk about the difference of serotonin and dopamine. I know you guys hear a lot about dopamine. I'm pretty sure you don't hear about serotonin as much as you hear about dopamine. I'm going to explain all that in details. Many more facts are coming. I'm going to talk about many things. Watch this ship crossing the river. So the synapse crosses, this is the neuron, and then here, somewhere here, where is it, somewhere in the middle, you have the nucleus. It's a very protected part of the brain where genetic information is coded and kept for future functions and procreation of the cell. So what generally happens is that information is transferred through the medium, and that generally happens through neurotransmitters, and neurotransmitters will profoundly affect the amount of charge that cross passes a neuron. So for example, if a neurotransmitter, I don't know, say dopamine, it's so much in the brain's neurons, the neurons fire so much, and then you have that feeling of euphoria, of happiness, of fulfillment, of just physical plateau, I would say. And now getting into an advanced state, sorry for the barking, I know that's gross, I really apologize for that. These videos are raw and unedited. I'll edit the videos later on as time passes. So what I was saying is the brain, all these systems, all this firing are happening continuously all the time, from the conception of the human being up until up across its lifetime. So it's constantly happening. That's why people who have substance abuse, they generally have a problem with stable electrical systems inside the brain, because neurons have a particular interesting fact that they are able to be excited. So they have an excitatory pathway, but however they also have to rest. It's not always fire, electrical. It's like if you're overusing a electrical wire, it will rust and it will decay fast. And neurons are not supposed to decay fast because they are single-lived cells. They only live once. Once they decay, they break down, they die, and they don't replenish themselves. So now this is the more detailed part. And from now onwards, I'm going to explain the complexity of the brain in a summarized way, and I'm going to explain why exactly is it that the brain is so complex and is deemed the most complex thing in the universe. Now, functional magnetic resonance. Here they're analyzing the various functions of the brain, wherein how is information transferred, how much charge and impulse crosses each neuron, each part of the brain, each part of a system, each part of the lobe of the brain, and at what frequency that happens, at what how repetitive that happen, in a what repetitive manner does that happen, in how much that affects memory, and how it happens when the person is going through grief, going through stress, going through depression, going through sadness, going through happiness. And the interesting fact is that when they go and map these aspects of the brain, say for instance, someone is going through someone has lost a beloved one, and then they go and map that part. They use the functional magnetic resonance, which is to know how much intensity of charge is going through each neuron, which part of the brain is responsible for that. They're not realizing that it doesn't work the same way depending on what type of the brain they're studying, and it's not repetitive. It's not happening in a single part of the brain. It happens in synchrony. Do you guys get that? It's in synchrony. So you have one part of the brain firing and other part firing much less, one firing much more. It's just so complex. It's really difficult to study. And that brings us to this tiny point that relates to emotion, which is stress and the loss of people. When it comes to another aspect or factor of life, say for instance, feeling cold or feeling depressed or feeling sad, it's happening in a different way. It's exciting different parts of the brain, and over 100 billion neurons, and then this thing is happening across the brain. It's just so complicated, guys. It's just hard to study. It's hard to map. One single cell, it's connected to 10,000 more neurons, and the information is being transferred across different neurons, and the impulses that are happening is just staggering. So it's basically difficult to know. It's difficult to know. Now from this stage on, from this point onwards, I'm going to also explain, trying to get into this teach. I'm going to explain why the brain consumes so much energy. So from the next videos, I think I'm going to be more specific and trying to phase things out, like explain each part, like how it happens, why am I explaining this, and how it goes. So we first came to the information transfer, the amount of energy. Now the energy density of the brain. So for instance, our brains, which I've mentioned previously, have around 100 billion neurons, and then these 100 billion neurons are consuming 23.5% of the oxygen levels in the body, and they're also consuming 25% of the glucose, 25% of the glucose inside the body. So if you have an average human being consumes somewhere around 2,000 or 2,000 calories per day, 2,000 calories per day, and then 500 of those calories just go primarily to the brain. Why is that? Because the brain is involved in all functions, and it has nerve terminals in all single cells across the body. It has to control how the mitochondria is produced. It has to send messages to the thyroid and all those things. And then basically what I would end up saying is that in actuality, the body is actually an extension to the brain. The brain is this part that controls everything, and then the body is an extension of it. I'll break down this video I'll make a last part. It's going to be more detailed, more specific, and more concrete. Thank you for watching. Guys, please, I know my videos are not really raw and unplanned. I'm really sorry for that, but I'm going to do better. I'm really confident that if you guys stay tuned, we are going to have such a journey here, and you will enjoy being with me. Thank you guys. Watch part 4 of why is the brain complex. In part 4, I'm going to explain exactly everything in a summarized way, specific way, and very short, really short and exciting. Thank you guys. Stay tuned.